Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the message reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post my story as anonymous? I am a 28-year-old young lady, and I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to my mother. Not that I have not yet apologized to her. Every time when I go back home, I try to apologize to my mom. But my mom, she say that she can't forgive me as such because of the things that I did when I came here to South Africa. Even my father, my mom, she claims that I'm the one who was responsible for the death of my father. My dad just had a heart attack, then he passed away. My father passed away, this was in 2018, after I had gotten arrested. After they had heard the news that I had gotten arrested here in South Africa, my dad just collapsed and he had a heart attack. That is how he passed away. So the rest of my family members, they can't forgive me. They keep on blaming me for the death of my father. Let me say that I was like the beacon of hope in my family because I was the only one who had managed to complete a high school, and not just to complete, I had even passed my high school. After I had passed my high school, there was no money for me to proceed with my education. I still remember that my mom and my dad, they went to this other mountain that is called Pindora. And after they had gone there, she had a letter that she had written when they had gone there to Pindora. And the letter was written like this. All that she wanted from God was a means for her to send me to university. This was just like a prayer, but God answered her prayer whilst she was there in that mountain that is called Pindora, because on the day when she was coming back, then one of our church members then called her and she asked her and my dad and me to come at her place, and they asked my mom to bring my A-level results. So we went together. We didn't know what the purpose of that visit was, but when we arrived at that woman's place, she then told my mom and my dad that she had a revelation and God had spoken with her. The revelation that God had given her was that she was supposed to take me to university. I was really excited. So she then spoke with some of her relatives that were staying here in South Africa as permanent residents. After that, that is when they organized that I was supposed to come to South Africa under their guardianship. When I arrived in South Africa, I was staying with her relatives. They were really wealthy people. Life really changed. When I left Zim to come and study here in South Africa, I had promised my mom and my dad that I was not going to forget the place from where I was coming from. I was going to study and work very hard so that I can lift up our family from the ashes of poverty. But when I arrived here in South Africa, as much as I tried to be a decent girl, but the pressures were just coming from everywhere. Even though the people that I was staying with when I had arrived in South Africa were really kind people, and they made sure that everyone who stayed under their roof would worship, pray, study the Bible, and fast. But I noticed that their kids, they pretended as if they were decent kids, but at night they used to get out of the house using this other bathroom window that didn't have any burglars on it. After they had gotten out of the house, a car will be waiting outside. It belonged to one of their friends who stayed in that rich neighborhood. Then they would go to the nightclubs. At first, when I noticed that this was their behavior, I then decided to mind my business and I went ahead with my education. The first year at university, everything was really going great. And the woman that I was staying with at that time, she was an engineer. She has her own company. She even said that if I was going to complete my education with flying colors. She was going to do everything in her power so that I can get an attachment at some of the biggest companies here in South Africa, because she had a lot of influence. Then I started to study very hard, but when I was in the second year of my university, that is when Johannesburg chose to swallow me up. Johannesburg is quite a fast place, and in the first year of my university, I never even bothered to walk around Johannesburg because I was really scared. But in the second year of my university, I forgot about everything. I forgot the poverty that I had left behind. I started to go out a lot with that woman's kids that I was staying with, and they were really wild. What they would do is that when we would be leaving their house, they used to put on very decent clothes, and when they would have drove out, we would look for a public toilet, and they will remove the decent clothes that they would have gone out of the house wearing, and they would wear some clothes that you won't even think that this person that is wearing these clothes, her parents are elders in the church. This is what they used to do. When we would go out, they would try to make me to wear those clothes that would be so revealing, but at first I would refuse. But then I noticed that wherever we would go, I would be the one who would be standing out. That is when I decided to wear those revealing clothes. In a very short period of time, I started to date a lot of different men, and the men that I was dating, they were not just regular boys from varsity, but I was dating the men that were given to me by those ladies' kids that I was staying with. And those ladies' kids, they only dated rich men. Brother Nashi, I am not talking about regular men. These were like rich men. After I had started to date all of these men, I started to go to school less. I didn't even focus about going to school, and that is when I was introduced to drugs. That is when I started to date this other guy who used to take a lot of drugs. Whenever I was with him, he would encourage me to take drugs with him. He promised me that if you have taken cocaine, it was going to make you feel even good when you are having sexual intercourse. And indeed, this was the truth, because the first day when I took cocaine, after I had taken cocaine, then the experience that came after that, I had never had such an experience. It really felt nice as we were making love. After that, I lost control and I forgot everything. I used to steal a lot of stuff from that lady who was taking me to school. I would steal some phones, some of the old phones that were in her house, because what she used to do is that she would go out and take some phones through her contract. So she used to keep most of her old phones in her bedroom, and most of her phones that she would be keeping, they would be like expensive phones. So I used to steal those phones so that I can spend the money. After she found out that I was the one who was stealing most of her stuff, at first she told me that she had forgiven me, and she even tried to take me to rehab, but Johannesburg had really swallowed me. Soon after I had gotten out of rehab, I went back to my ways, and this time around, I even ran away from home. Then I started to stay in the street. When I was staying in the street, that is when I met this other guy who was in the business of hijacking cars. And I thought that indeed the guy really loved me. But what I didn't know was that the guy was just using me. That guy then told me that since I was really beautiful, he can help me to make a lot of money. So what he used to do is that he would go with me with other girls. He had plenty of girls that he used to work with. When we would be at the nightclub, our job was to look out for guys who had money, and we were supposed to notify him that the guy that you'll be drinking alcohol with, the guy will be loaded with cash. And if you have gone to that guy's place, you were supposed to send him a location so that they can come and rob the guy. That is how I was arrested. And when I was arrested, after my dad was told that I was arrested, and sadly, that lady could no longer take me to university because she had tried but she had failed. When my dad had this sad news, that is when he collapsed and he had a heart attack. Right now, my brother, I am just working as a maid, and it really pains me a lot because I was like a really bright student. I thought that indeed I was going to be a civil engineer, but now I am just working as a maid. All that I can say is that Johannesburg, it really crushed my dreams. I came here to be a civil engineer, but now I am working as a maid. I am only getting something like 3,200 rands a month. And no matter how hard I try to save, that money is not enough. But what can I do? I am just living, but deep down inside, I am just a dead woman walking around. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received from that young lady. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation.